G'day everyone, welcome to episode 21 of A Doge's Breakfast. It's another Hangouts episode. I have with me James, the beautiful Morehouse down in Canberra, and we've also got a very special guest today in Aaron Whale, who's catching up with us all the way from Tasmania. How are you, Aaron?
I'm going well, apart from it's very, very cold.
Yeah, we were
Oh
talking
my
about that
god.
before we came on air. It's about 8 degrees in Hobart at the moment. I'm a very frosty 18 degrees up here. James has got his pirate hat on. Mate, take that fucking thing
No,
off. I'm
it's
going to
gone.
ban
It's
you
gone.
from
Wait,
banning you from pirate hats for the rest of the episode.
you can't ban. This is a tale of Captain Jack Sparrow. Okay, it's gone. All right.
All right, so we've got a couple of things to talk about today. James, why don't you just quickly give us a rundown of how you've been going with your games and stuff? I saw your episode with the shifting stones and shit. That was pretty good, but it's hard to get a lot of depth in that when you're just sort of scratching the surface, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I played a game and I wanted to go into a bit of depth about how to use shifting stones, and then I realized obviously approximately less than 10% of people play Circle, so I really just wanted to go into detail. Then realized, hang on, you can't go into detail when there's so much to the basics of it, and I still reckon I'm learning the basics of shifting stones even after 2.5 years. So that was good. It was this will sound a bit derogatory and controversial, but I'm actually finding it hard to get good practice.
Very
Just
controversial.
because,
So basically, you're calling everyone in Canberra shit. Is that right? Can I have that as a direct quote?
well, with the upcoming ATC, they need every confidence booster they can get. No. What I mean is that, like, to get seriously good practice, that the best kind of practice you can get is at the Super Series final. That kind of quality of event where you just play good player after good player and actually really get tested. And you'll learn more in 5 games at the Super Series final than you will in 20 games locally at home. So I just love to be able to play, like, a player of Omnis's quality followed by Jay Larson followed by Creed, and then against yourselves. Like, we live thousands of kilometers apart. So
Yeah.
kind
Yeah, well, if you don't mind me jumping in there, obviously you've been down in Hobart. I'm in a very, very isolated place, and it's funny how you say that because obviously talking to a lot of guys and obviously over in the US and whatnot, and I find again the same. I don't want to beat my own drum, but to find it, um, competition that's obviously just going to keep pushing you. I just find, just personally, it's probably for just to focus on your own game more than anything. Just to, try not to make any mistakes at all. I know it's always hard because you might be playing people, and obviously I find myself because you're playing the person more than the faction. You know what their weaknesses are, and so on and so forth. Definitely for the preparation for what you guys are up for, it's going to be one of those things. And obviously Trent and I, we were talking about it a bit on Facebook leading up to it, mate. It's probably going to be one of those things where you just want to make sure that you're really tight and you're on top of what you're doing. And because I know that personally, you can get a bit sloppy and you can get away with things, but when you hit those top players, if you just make that simple mistake, that could just cost you the game.
Yeah, Potsy and I play quite regularly, and I actually played him tonight. And the one thing that was interesting, he was playing a new faction, and he was making a few mistakes and a few little takebacks here or there, which is fine. He was learning a new faction, but every practice game I've played in the last month and a half, I haven't taken a single take back. If I make a mistake, I cop it on the chin. I work out what I'm going to do. If I get to do something, I cop it on the chin. I move on, and I think that has really helped sharpen me up. And you're right. You've just got to focus on your own game because you don't know anything about the caliber of your opponent. You don't know anything about how they're going to play, what mistakes they're going to make. The only thing you can focus on is your knowledge of their army and your skill and knowledge of your own army. So, yeah.
I've been working on my 2 lists, just honing those in. We have a little practice event this weekend for you can take Iron Gauntlet format, plus our ATC team will be playing all the ATC lists just because it's the weekend before the ATC that unfortunately we won't be at. But chugging along, trying not to make any of the mistakes, holding myself to a really high standard. I haven't played any Cassius. He's my 3rd list for Masters at this stage. I'd love to get a couple more games in, but c'est la vie, really. How about your practice?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going all right. I was a little down on confidence last week after I lost to Josh. That's the first game I've lost in about a month and a half. So, and then I backed that up with another loss. But
Yeah,
I went
so
away
you lost
from
to
the
Josh, and then lost to Josh, and then you lost to Simon Hall, I think. So.
well, the Simon Hall game didn't count because he didn't actually win. He
Oh,
needed
okay.
the roll. He needed the roll of 7 to knock me down. He rolled a 6. So.
Mm.
But if he'd
No,
rolled a
look,
7, you would have won. So.
but he didn't. So.
Yeah, but if he did,
But he
so you
didn't.
chalk that one
Like,
off as a win
fuck,
to
he
Simon.
didn't fucking roll it, Simon. Just fucking cop it on the chin, mate. Anyway.
He hasn't told me about it. He hasn't told me about it many times, and don't worry about it, man. Like it's definitely
He loves beating me, Simon. He just loves it. It's his life
It's not a loss
goal.
to Simon, but it's not a loss to you.
No. Anyway, but those two games against Josh gave me a bit of pause for thought, and I was wondering if I was maybe barking up the wrong tree. But I went away and had another think about it, and then played him again and just absolutely carved him up last night. So yeah, I'm back feeling good, feeling happy. I want to get probably another. Go, Az.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say. I suppose this far out to the competition too, I'd be advising probably not to change too many things because you probably want to get to the stage where you just hone in what you've done. I mean, obviously, watching all the videos and seeing both your lists and seeing your ideas, and again, obviously, we're talking about a lot. I think you're going in with very strong lists, and if you're extremely confident with those, and it probably. I suppose a lot of it, particularly it's going to be that first game, it's going to be really interesting. A lot of people talk about their first round, first game nerves. I was just thinking about it today. That I mean, my advice to you guys would be, I know both you guys are obviously in your Masters event, and I suppose it depends on how much weight you want to put on it. But I would be recommending you guys definitely play. Well, I know obviously Trent, you can't because you got two different factions, but pick one of those lists and take it in Masters because obviously that's the first round's going to be on the Friday. Might just help you get rid of those like first game round nerves and whatnot because.
I think.
Sorry, James, you go.
No, yeah, spot on. It's an opportunity to dust out the cobwebs, get sort of acclimatized if you want to use a sporting analogy, and get used to just playing over there. Also, funny hours maybe when you're a bit tired as well.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what we used to do when I was doing like some serious music training was wake up in the middle of the night and try and run a piece at 4 a.m. when you're absolutely zonked and out of it. Play it for 20 minutes and go to bed. Just to acclimatise.
And I mean the awesome thing about what I experienced last year, I mean obviously with the Iron Arena there were plenty of opportunities. I mean obviously I know respectively we're going to be mucking around in the teams event. Obviously Friday is going to be the first day with Masters, and regardless of how you go in the results, there's always time to find games and whatnot and be able to play. And I mean, obviously, but I've already had a chat to a few people, and obviously trying to line up a few games for you guys, just so you can hit the ground running come that Sunday morning because you got that final 16 and it was funny, Trent, because we were talking about obviously I've been talking to a few guys from the US and it's going to be stringing out all lines out, but. In terms of dark horses, mate, I've got no idea about obviously the European scene. Obviously, you guys have seen that in the past, but it's just going to. I'm just really intrigued how this final 16 is just going to go, and obviously, just see where the luck rolls, or where you guys end up and go from there. But I mean, realistically, I think when you get down to that final 16, it's just going to be anyone's guess because it's not like. How you get round 1 or round 2 to warm up and get into the groove. It's going to be game on.
There's no easy games. Yeah, it's going to be straight in.
That's right. So yeah, it's going to be. As I said, it's going to be. I'm really excited just to see how it all goes. So I mean, obviously for me, I'll just be sitting there. Yeah. I mean, mate, I'll be cruising around as a bit of an armchair expert, mate. But there's going to be no pressure on me. But
I think you had a very good point in when you said that we've got to go in with lists we're confident with, and I mean James has got that up his sleeve because he's been playing Circle for 2.5 years, and if you're going to pick a favourite out of the two of us to go well, I think at the moment the smart money would be on James because he's got the form going in and he's been practicing non-stop. So
yeah, I did really well at CanCon.
Yeah, you did mate, you played Scorn like.
The thing is, and look, I obviously don't want to give any last second jitters, mate. But I think an advantage for you, though, Trent, is because you've gone the two different factions. If I was in that top 16, and again, honestly, I have no proof of this, and this is all just thoughts in my head. But if I was in that top 16, and I had a list that was good against Circle. Obviously, if I was playing against James, then obviously I know that he's going to go Circle. Whereas against you, obviously, you're two different sides of the coin. So that may or may not play into it. I mean, I suppose it's obviously going to be a trade, obviously versus confidence, and you know the list inside out like the back of your hand, and obviously you do too. But I mean, who knows? As I said, I can just touch on my experience when I was at Daikon last year. Funny, we made Masters. It's top 16, same thing, and I had all the big names there that would just give me a shit. One because I was from the other side of the world, and two that I was playing cricks, and it was hilarious, mate. They're all lining up, obviously. The night before, they're telling me about how they're going to, there was, I think there was 6 cricks lists in the top 16, and how they were going to smash us and how they're going to do all this kind of stuff, and it was hilarious. John Demiris obviously got a cricks player. Keith got knocked out by a cricks player in the first round. Two of the guys played each other, so it's just funny to see how it goes because it's funny. You might be there going, I've got a target on your back, but you know that there's someone standing behind you who's got a target on your back, and so on and so forth. So.
Well, there's one interesting thing that I don't know if you're up to speed on, but basically, so the top 16 is actually going to be split into pools. It's going to be run very similar to the World Cup in the way that they divide it up. So there's actually going to be an Australia pool, which I'm going to be ranked number 1 in, and then they're going to rank 1 in each of the 4 different continental groups, and then everyone else is going to get distributed through there. So, I mean, as far as it goes, I'm probably going to play someone who is lower on the rankings than I sort of am. It doesn't necessarily equate to an easy game, though, but, that's a little advantage going in, whereas James is going to have to go probably up against one of the number 1 guys because he's going to be seated right at the bottom. So, in some ways, I think I'd probably even prefer to be James because he's going to know from the gates he's got to fucking go out hard.
Yeah, true. So just, I mean, obviously, keep me on track. But of those people, are you guys aware of who's in the top 16? I've been looking for it, but has it been finalised? Who's in the top 16?
I've got an unofficial list that I can show you. But I've got the top 8, the 2 from each region, and then the top 8 remainders after that. I've got what I think is unofficial. I find it interesting that they haven't actually announced this yet. They had that promo video coming out late last week, but I know what you're about to say, Trent. Go on.
Yeah, the reason they haven't announced it is because they don't want there to be any late-minute dropouts. There's a couple of guys who've said they're going to come over from Europe, but if they don't end up making the trip, then one of the guys who was next on the list will make it in. So rather than announce, the lists and the draw, they're going to wait till the day. So we've got a fairly good idea of probably the 18 or 19 players that are any chance of making it. So
yeah, I got you.
Can I just chime in for 1 second? That's something we'll come back to when we talk about our mate, but. We were talking about the format last night, just after one of our games with the locals, and I'm still not actually sure how they're going to seed the players because just because somebody didn't come 1 or 2 in their region doesn't mean they won't have a fuck ton of points and could be seed number 1 outside of the regional rankings. So are they going to break us into like 4 groups of 4? So essentially like World Cup 4-4-4-4. Where you play each other player in each pool, so you play 3 games in your pool. You could potentially lose one. No. Yes, okay, so it's elimination.
So I think what happens is one plays 4 and 2 plays 3 in each pool, and then those 2 guys will go through to the next round, the winners of that, and play each other, and then you'll have 4 undefeateds from there from the 4 pools.
Right. So it's just standard sort of steamroller elimination, but you're in it's sort of predetermined where each pair of 2 will start.
As I understand it, that's how it's going to work. But I may have misinterpreted what Hungerford said, but I'm pretty sure that's how it is scheduled to work. So.
The only stuff that I know is that basically it's all happening on the Sunday. There's 16 people and there's 4 rounds. So 16 to 8, 8 to 4.
That's all that really matters, isn't it? Like, is 8 players, 16 rounds, 16 players, 4 rounds.
Yep. You just basically four games, and if you win all 4, then you're going to put that crown on your head. Simple as that.
Yep. That's it. That's what it's come. There will be no easy games. Play 4 games out of your skin. That's what it comes down to. I've got the tentative list I spoke to the guys about last night. So we sort of hypothesized a few bits and pieces. I'll just run through some names. So. Based on the points on the website, my rough guess is, and assuming that the top, we're not showing the Europeans, Keith Christensen, Brandon Kading, they're both America West. Daniel Naus and Andy McBurney, both Europe. Jason Watt and JVM from America East, and Trent and I from Australia. And then the top point scorers after that is likely to be Charles Arrowsmith, Jay Larson, and I know that's true because he's got his invite and he's made that public. Colin Hill, Robin Malkisch, Jan Souza, Trevor Attridge, Martin Hornacek, and Jordan Nark. Except I think Tom Guan has jumped up in there. So that's very roughly the final four, so 17 through to 20 after that. Tom Guan, Chris Green, Miliano Traversi, and Jake Hoffman. So
I know that I don't think Jan Souza's coming. He's Danish. I'm pretty sure he's not coming. But I do think that Robin Malkish is coming. So Tom Guan probably jumps up.
I can confirm. I was talking to Tom the other day. He definitely got an invite. So yeah. I can confirm that.
Yeah, cool. I mean,
Aaron, you are the biggest unkept secret in probably, like, I think we could say the world, the global War Machine meta, but mainly Australia as well. Like, Whale is not an accurate representation. You're the stealthy War Machine ninja who just appears at tournaments and just wins them out of nowhere.
That's right. That's exactly right. As I was telling you, mate, just a dark horse. When that preparation for that event, mate, that's the thing I was counting on, is that everyone's going to look at this bloke and go, oh, he's only from Hobart, he's from Tasmania, and just go through unnoticed, mate. That was my plan.
Mate, you fucking did it well, too. You didn't play anyone at all until the final round.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. Look, as we've spoken many a time, I was a very lucky man that, maybe the God shone on me and thought, we don't know who you are, so you don't pose a threat, so we'll just push you through.
I hosted an episode of Chain Attack this morning with the guys, and I got to admit, I gave you a bit of a carve up, so...
Oh, did you now? Okay.
I can't wait for that.
Enjoy that when it comes out. I was trying to keep it fairly polite and fairly non-deno, but mate, I think a few F-bombs slipped out. So
it's all right, mate. I'm sure when I get up to Idaho Falls, I can return the favour, mate. So don't worry about that.
Mate, just make sure you remind everyone where you came at that tournament, where I came at that tournament, because I was not first. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, literally, the one event that we have in common, you cleaned up. We've got nothing.
Hey, luck, mate. I'm just gonna put it down to luck. That's all it was, mate. Just pure luck. That's all it was.
Hey, it's starting to get very real now. It's 3 weeks till we leave, and that promo video came out last week. So.
How fucking exciting is that promo video?
It's gonna be awesome, mate. It's gonna be,
My favourite. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, from a spectator's point of view, I can tell you obviously my experience from last year, and we saw the finals, and obviously Keith and Brennan were playing, and it was just, they had, think of like a big conference room, and they had two big, like, giant screens which they pulled down and had the whole game projecting, and obviously there were people who were in hotspots with laptops and whatnot, and they were streaming it, and just the atmosphere, man, it was really awesome to have, because we had probably, I'd say, at least 400 people, and everyone just pulled up seats, and it was hilarious. You were just watching this game, and like, obviously, at that stage I was sitting with a couple of people that I'd made friends with, but it was hilarious. It was all this different, because you're in a completely room, there's all this different chatter about, like, why is he doing that there? Oh, he's in big trouble here. Oh, look at this thing here. And, like, everyone's obviously trying to second guess what people are doing and so on and so forth. But I'm really hoping, it's going to be interesting to see how they do it this year. I'm sure they've got it all sorted. I'd really like to be able to be in a situation where the crowd is kept away so you guys can focus on what you've got to do, but then the ability for them to stream it or broadcast it so we can feel like, we're at the side of the table. So I've got no doubt when the final comes they'll do that. I'm just not sure how they're going to do, obviously, those prelim rounds and whatnot. As I said, I've got faith that they'll, they ran a really good show last year, so I've got faith that they'll take care of it, as you said, but it's becoming a reality, and it's obviously exciting for all.
Man, it's such a reality now. It's 3 weeks away, and we've just got. I want to get another 20 games in, but I'll be pushing that.
They need to put it in like a fishbowl Coliseum type event where it's glassed off, like World Cyber Games finals. It's glassed off, but there's a Coliseum of everyone watching and cheering, so you can look up and see all these people going, "Woo!"
Yeah, that's right.
That promo video, I showed it to Steph, and she said, it's really cute how they blurred the borders to make it look like fast-paced action. Fire, damage roll, boxcars, pushes a model 3 inches forward.
That's nothing.
It's awesome.
Well, mate, in terms of your 20 games, mate, I wouldn't recommend it with no sleep, but those doors are going to be open 24/7, mate, that Iron Arena. So if you wanted to play till you're exhausted, mate, you could probably get 60 games in before that Sunday if you start early on Friday morning, mate.
So I've got Cameron White who's actually watching this, and he's just sent a couple of messages. First question, James, are you practicing against anything other than E. Haley? I am. I've been playing lots of games. I played Exelon Texas, and I've played Ran. I've played all sorts of things. James?
Yeah. Short answer, yes. My last video was actually my first game against E. Haley in for ages. Maybe last time I played him was Frawley. So I've been playing a lot against Cricks, which I don't mind because that was probably the hole in my matchup.
And his second question was, Aaron, who else did you play other than Potsy at CanCon? I can only remember, I think you played Arian, is that right? You played Arian in round 5?
It's hilarious, actually, you say that, mate. Here's my sheet. Funny enough, I've just got it on here. Now, I just need to clarify that I don't come home every night and just sit here and look at this thing. It just so happened to be here.
Who just sits there saying?
Who did I have? I had. I'm gonna make an absolute meal of these guys' names, but I had a Dale.
Chinoa, Doyle.
Yeah,
so he can't play for shit. Next,
Peter Spiller, is it?
Peter Spiller. He's from Victoria. He's played 4 games of War Machine, so he's a gun too. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna start making some names up here now. If we're gonna go down this path. Nathan Frawley.
Frawley can play a little bit.
Yeah, he was a double Stormwall. I remember.
I can see money disappearing out of my PayPal account at the moment. I don't know what's going on, but
people are refunding.
David Kingsley.
Oh, Dave Kinsey. How did Dave Kinsey get to 3-0? How did he win 3 games?
Is that David Kingsley?
He was playing Minions. Kinsley.
It's Kinsey! You must have played down. He could not have been 3-0.
Hey, I did. You and I had this conversation. You know, as I said, they looked at the Tasmanian Blade. They looked at me, probably thought I was, disabled, and thought, hey, let's get this guy in his fourth round.
Probably thought this guy's just been picked up from the gutter. He's had a bit too much to eat. He's probably a little bit on the slow side. We'll slide him.
He's struggling to keep his 6th finger attached to his hand. We'll give him Humpty Dumpty.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Is he hiding his second head? That's half his direct
right. That's exactly right. Hey, just to clarify, I'm actually a Victorian who moved down to Tassie, but that's not going to save me. Anyway, yeah, and then Aaron in round 5, and then Potsy round 6.
Potsy.
So that's who I had.
So in the industry, that's what we call a dream run, right? So that's
your words, not mine. Didn't play against much chop at all.
No.
Your words, not mine. And then apparently, allegedly, the bloke that I played last, which we all know very well and probably love and dear him, he happened to list lock himself. So obviously, someone really wanted me to win. So thanks for coming.
And he loves playing against Cricks, so that would have definitely worked in his favour.
Mate, so Potsy has the biggest psychological thing with Cricks you'll ever see. Like, you'd won that game when you sat down at the table, mate. You didn't have to do a thing. You could have fucking cast Dirtlefest 8000, you would have won that game.
Well, remember, I did. Remember, I thought, here I am with that mammoth, and I put down those clouds thinking, here we go, and he's like, just looking at me like, is this guy for real or what? Anyway, so yeah.
His eyes watching the game, his eyes just went as big as dinner plates. They were like,
I just look. Honestly, complete stuff up from my point of view. But I thought I'd keep it up live and interesting, and obviously it almost worked.
Yep. To clarify, what happened was.
I talked about this on Chain Attack, mate. I told him on Chain Attack what happened.
So
did you really? Hey. W's a W, that's all I'm going to say.
That's all I got, mate.
That's all I got. That is all I got.
Still counts. All right.
So Aaron won that with a strength schedule of 3, I think.
Yeah, he won it with strength schedule of 3.
I think it was, yes. Particularly with the Minions played down. And the funny thing was that Minions game. That Minions game was the worst game I played because I got Minions and because I was told I was playing down. Typical me thought, and I honestly mean no disrespect, I thought to myself, this is too easy, and I almost lost the game because I was just so overconfident.
If you lost the game to Dave Kinsey, you've got some fucking serious problems happening because that guy I love him to death, but oh my god.
There's a reason his nickname is Gandhi.
Yeah.
But hang on, but what else did you call him? Because he was really quiet. I had trouble hearing him.
Yeah, we call him Silent Dave. That's his nickname.
He's Silent. Yeah, you told me Silent Dave. He's telling me stuff like. He's like, this guy's going to activate. I didn't hear what he said, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he said that guy's going to activate. You know, I didn't want to come across as an arsehole. You know, I was just like, okay, I'll just, we'll just see what happens. So.
No, he's a fucking legend. Like we all love him to bits, but he doesn't say a thing. He's hilarious. My girlfriend characterised him once as he was one of those guys that you sit there in a conversation and he just wants to jump in, but he can't say anything because he's too quiet and too shy. And he finally gets around to saying it, and you're 4 conversations down and talking about something completely different. So.
Well, there you go.
It's not like his voice is in his job. Yep.
James, let's talk about specialists because that's our topic for tonight. I'd like you to start us off. What do you think of Specialist A? How have you planned for Specialist B? And are you looking forward to the tournament with Specialist C?
I'll try and keep this pretty quick. So what do I think of Specialists? In this format, I think people want to see a bit of a resurgence of Specialists. And I was initially hating them and against them. However, for this format where the variety of things that you can play against it is massive, specialists are actually there to plug holes rather than to pose tougher questions to your opponent. So, for example, when I was hating them, I played Nathan Frawley, who was playing E. Kane, and I was playing I think I was playing E. Morvana at the time, but I had 2 or 3 heavies in that list, and so he subbed in Pendrake. And that was just the easiest 2-point switch you could have done, which massively changes the odds on him killing my heavies. And I thought, like, this is just finding a weakness and twisting the knife. I was really hating on it in that format. I was using sentry stones to block line of sight by creating little forests. And the specialists became a game within themselves. But in IG, I think that they don't twist the knife. They just give you a bit more flexibility in plugging holes once you get stuck in a matchup, because the variety of things you can be playing against is enormous. So essentially, what I found in Iron Gauntlet is I'm a fan of them. They aren't game breaking, but they make it interesting enough without drastically changing anything. What was part B?
Part B was how have you designed your lists with specialists in mind?
Cool. So I've been tinkering with this a fair bit. And one of the problems I've encountered is the pure blood is 9 points, which is a better problem than him being 11 points. But when you compare it to Legion, who have the Naga for 5 points, it's that Animus gives you a lot of flexibility. So I've been tinkering with my list. I'm happy where they are. If you watch the last video, you'll see my E. Kruger specialists are Pendrake, because he's also my Legion drop. And he is stellar with Druids, Lord of the Feast, and Moonhound. Those are my specialists for that one. There are some nice changeable options. You've discussed yours in detail. I haven't gone into huge detail on mine, but
what's
my
Moonhound? Like, I was looking at your Moonhound and I was thinking, I don't see that adding a lot to the list. What's the theory there?
So a couple of things. I have 10 Wald Stalkers, so being able to have native rat 8 at 10 if needed, especially in the crits matchup, is good for taking out Raiders and taking out Banes as well, because he can remove stealth. He's 4 points. Crits actually don't want to invest time hitting a Def 15 model. Basically, he can turn my guns up a bit if I need, and he actually can take E. Kruger's gun. It's a last-ditch thing, but he can take E. Kruger's gun up to a
Rat 8.
Def 18. Rat 8, which is hitting 18s on average, 18, 19, which is starting to really threaten a few more squishy casters. And E. Kruger can really play that game.
Yeah, yep. Makes it easy to stick the first one, which is what you need.
E. Morvana, I was having second thoughts on actually taking her, but I've played a couple of games with her recently and just gotten back into the groove. Specialists, I've been thinking about this a bit for her. I was actually considering getting the Witch Doc Croc back in, but he makes everything really awkward, basically. The Pure Blood was the other option, and I'm still actually tinkering with that just for the magic attacks, but he would have been way more useful in my Epic Kruger list, where you can give, magic text to something like Getorix, who can then go and kill Denny. Denny is the big one when you're thinking about the pure blood, in my opinion. There are other
Didn't you
things
say
like
you were gonna drop Kruger against it anyway?
yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. I've been playing. I think this might be coloured by the fact that I've been playing against a ton of incorporeal P-Scar lists, like double Wraith engines and Raiders, and then other bits and pieces. Which is thanks, Rob Shepherd, love your work. I've been tossing around my options with Morvana. I have elected to go with Max Blood Trackers and UA to give me basically a shooting option, and the fact that her list really doesn't need much other than the potential for a Witchstock Croc. He loses a lot of value when you're only running heavy infantry. He's there to deny things like Trolls snacking, opposing Morvana, Colin Hill, with Carnivore. And I think he actually could swing it a lot in those sort of games, but he leaves this awkward 7-point void of nothing you can really utilize.
Nothing of value that you can put in for that 7 points.
That's it. Not like legitimately nothing. I've been looking at like heavies, and I've got the jumpy goat, so I've really got no options there. I'm hoping I'm overthinking it, and I would like to leave it as just Max Blood Trackers. Yeah, that's essentially it. I've found that I've subbed them in about every second game in a couple of different combinations each game. So, for example, in a couple of games I've subbed out 10 points of Wold Stalkers against E. Lilith because I really can't do much against her all-stealth army, and subbed in Lord of the Feast, not fantastic. The Moonhounds, which was okay, and Pendrake. I mean, E. Lilith's a bit of a skew anyway, it's a bit far down the rabbit hole, but it's worked out nicely. I'm sure there's probably more optimal combinations, but we're starting to run out of time now, and I'm happy where it's at the moment.
The thing I found about specialists, which I really actually enjoyed the list building process, was trying to work out little modules in my lists that I could actually sub in and out. And the Vlad list that I've been playing is really awesome in the amount of flexibility I've got in what I can sub out. You know, like it's easy for me to sub out Ulans, I can sub out Pikemen, I can sub out Outriders, I can sub out Solos, I can sub out the Dracoon. So I've got all these options that I can change my list. I've got about 12 different list variations that I've played. It's really given me a lot of flexibility, which is awesome. The Scar list is the opposite to that. I've only ever subbed in models in that game once, but I think I think it's actually really fun addition to the list building process for me, which can sometimes get a bit stale or boring, you know. I don't know. Sometimes I get a bit bored with writing lists, but when I've got specialists there, it's good.
I think it works a lot more in War Machine's favour as well. Modules you have a lot more small modules in War Machine because beasts in hordes can take 30, 40, 50% of your army easily. And I feel like an army like Legion has a ton more flexibility there in like a 5-point Naga, and then little things like two Death Stalkers and a Shepherd, or a Forsaken. 2 Forsaken could be massive in a matchup. Or they have a lot more of those little tiny 2-3-point switches. Whereas Circle, the solos, it's really not great. So E. Kruger plays a similar specialist game to how you're playing E. Vlad. He's got a few little problem fixes. You've got a lot more versatile modules. Whereas my Morvana list, it really doesn't change much. It'll change in a couple, like Saren. I'll definitely be subbing out a melee unit if I manage to put her up against Saren. But it is a lot less hordes inclined, I think. What about you? So, I mean, you've talked about it a bit in your previous episodes, but
oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of specialists. I never was when we first saw them. I thought that they did do a lot for making already winnable games even more winnable. But I think that, like, if you get into that situation, it's not really going to make it all that much worse. Like, that Pendrake example is a good one. Kane was already going to hit your beasts on 5s. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't changed the dynamic that much.
It's if you pop him behind a wall and now he's hitting them on 9s. The boosted 9s is nice. It's 75% hit a boosted 9. So yeah. Obviously that changes the map drastically, but he's incredible.
It's only about 65, but that's okay.
It's 75.
I think if you don't mind me coming in,
Yeah,
guys, I suppose from my point of view, I think from a specialist, you can basically look at it on kind of two different ways. I think a lot of people, from what I've seen and from my experiences, a lot of people are using specialists to kind of be flexible to fill a gap or answer a question which they are expecting their opponent to ask. And I think I think it'll be interesting to see if someone tries to use it on the flip side in terms of maybe trying to dark horse with specialists and maybe obviously they can in a war machine sense, as what James was talking about before, they have nice little modules which they can put in, obviously standard things, probably the irises, the Cal Baylocks, potentially Gorman Wolves, depending on your list, those kind of things, which you can just sub in. But I'm interested to see if anyone uses them to maybe ask a couple of questions. So, I mean, again, I know maybe the points aren't the same, but just using the Cricks example, maybe having that Blackbones Ghost Raiders as an incorporeal unit, I'm not suggesting that's the best that's the best example, but it's a very clear example. You're going for, okay, well, I'm just going to throw this massive incorporeal unit down, because obviously you can have a look at your opponent's armies. You can look at them and go, okay, Army A doesn't have too many magical weapons, Army B has no magical weapons, so I'm going to bring these guys in. I suppose from my point of view and from a Horde's point of view, I agree. I think they're hard. I mean, there are some little nichey things which you can use to answer some questions, i.e. Victor Pendrake, put in the Gator and Witch Doctor, but I think they're probably more suited to go askew to basically ask a difficult question in terms of Hordes, because you know what I mean? Because there isn't a huge plethora of options which you can go to. Obviously Mercs. Mercs obviously provide all those factions, all those different things from that War Machine. Obviously, there's obviously a few examples for Hordes, but obviously nowhere near the depth of what War Machine can use. So I think it'll be interesting. Just an interesting thought to see if anyone's out there, that's going to think of specialists in that way. I personally really like specialists because, as I said, I mean, you can design a list, and you can even go down the path of designing a list with a bit of a skew to have your specialist to fall back on to basically cover something depending on if you're presented to it. So, you can play to your strengths, or if you hit something where you think, oh, geez, I'm not happy with, then you can fall back on your specialist to try to cover your weaknesses. So, just a personal point of view, I'm a massive fan of specialists. We don't, a lot of the events that I play don't use it, but when we do use it, from a Cricks point of view, obviously, for those who didn't know, that's a faction that I play. I really like throwing in just some different type things in there that, people generally don't see, and you kind of look at it and you're like, oh, really? Have they got that in there? Or I'll even go from the point of view that I'll have it in my main list, with no intention of using it, but just to put it there and obviously just sub in the specialists.
Yeah, that's a good one. The decoy. I thought about that. I thought about having a unit in my main list that I never intended on playing, just to fully, like taking a 10-point heavy, for example. Like having, I don't know, a Spriggan or something in my Vlad list, and fully intending to sub him out for full pikeman every game, but just make him think that there was more armor than there was. That's one valid way of using it, I think, as well.
I think that's a spot-on observation. I was going to do that as well with the bit of point fiddling to get Pendrake and a pure blood in, and have in reserves full druids and one grove to give me the flexibility, because Pendrake and a pure blood were an 11-point package, so it doesn't work, and both were vital. You can fiddle with the points a bit. I think that Cricks pose tough questions. That's one of their things. And the ability for them to pose even tougher questions with specialists by saying, okay, can you deal with, their options could be, Max Blackbane's Incorp, or another heavy, probably unlikely, but another heavy. Darag, two sirens and a siren and two pistol wraiths, or
two sirens and two pistol wraiths. You mean?
Yeah, that's
Darag, two pistol wraiths.
Pistol
that's
wraiths.
Sorry, Darag.
Three.
Yeah. That's the one thing. We'll talk about Darag. Every stat is one higher than it should be, except its point cost.
Darag Wraith should be in the main list, in every main list. If that guy is not in the list, you're doing something wrong. He's a fucking. I love that guy. I can't get over how good he is.
They have incredible specialist options, though. I think because they have the ability to pose an even tougher question once you get locked into lists. Because a lot of people
Yeah,
build a Crix list saying can I answer the question of Crix, and then they'll go, okay, now that you're locked into that one, can you answer that question with 20% different list, which I think is massive. The other one is Scorn. I don't know if you thought about them, but they have a lot of little 2-point fixes. Extoller for eyeless sight and magic weapons. Will breakers for dice fixing. They have a couple of nice options.
Scorn are alright, but the Hordes factions, as Aaron said, are basically your best bet's probably to have a heavy in your sideboard and maybe sub out a unit if you can. They don't really have an awful lot of options. War Machine's lucky in that they can access a deep bench of mercs, particularly for Kador and Signar. Like my specialist is mostly key merc solos that I need or don't need depending on the list. So
I'm keen to see where they go with the format over the next 6, 12, 18 months, the next iteration of Iron Gauntlet, because I'm not married to it, but I think it has potential. The other thing is, 9 on 3d6 is a 74%. It blew my mind the other day because the odds of rolling 3 to 10 are the same as rolling 11 to 18. It's 74.07%. It blew my mind. I thought it was about 68, 70.
Yeah, I would have called 67 off the top of my head.
Yes, it's 3/4 as opposed to 2/3.
One thing I want to throw out there, guys, is and obviously I don't want to get too carried away, but obviously talking to some of the other guys, what I'm really intrigued about is what they're going to put up as a prize for the person who wins his first Iron Gauntlet.
Yeah.
That's just to sidetrack just slightly. It'll be, I mean, obviously, I don't want to steal any thunder from any other podcast or anything, but obviously I got the idea from the Muse guys in terms of when they were discussing it some months ago. But I suppose from obviously now that it's reality and you think about it, I mean, I suppose just not because they've been so well, they've been tight-lipped and no indication of what it'll be. But I mean, obviously, apart from the prestige and being obviously the first Iron Gauntlet winner and all the rest of it. But I just think it'll be interesting to see what
All
they're
the
going to have.
bitches throwing themselves at you after winning a Toy Soldier tournament.
Yeah, I was going to say that Chiku won Eurovision from Austria. The girl with the beard.
What was that? I could not believe it.
You
I
win
saw
her.
that.
I had the strangest boner.
You actually get her beard. That's what you get if you win Iron Gauntlet. Her beard. They give that to you.
Yeah, well,
shave it.
I was going to say if you guys win the final and that's a prize, you can keep it all to yourself, mate. Obviously.
James needs it more than I do. Have a look at him. The prize will be interesting, won't it? Like, I don't know. No one knows, mate. I'd like a crown. I want a fucking crown, or a pirate hat. That'd be awesome.
As I said, it'll be funny to see what they do. I mean, I've got no idea, but I think it'll be cool. If they come up with some kind of funky idea. I mean, obviously, no idea, but yeah.
Total random speculation. What about some sort of sponsorship?
I was kind of thinking that. I mean, yeah, something. I would hope maybe, yeah, either just some kind of involvement with the company, maybe. I mean, I don't know, just some input somewhere, or who knows. Maybe
It'll
something like that.
almost certainly be an invite to next year's final, without a doubt. There probably won't be any financial compensation, but you'll get an invite for sure.
No, I agree, but maybe I don't know. Maybe if you'd work with them a bit, or I don't know. Who knows?
I'm not really too worried. Like honestly, if I was playing this game for the fucking prizes, I'd be in it for the wrong reasons.
No, of course.
You win a $12 blister pack after paying $30 to enter the fucking tournament. So
that's right.
But yeah, it'd just be great feeling to win that tournament. I think.
True.
I was talking to the guys the other night. I said if Trent and I got to the final, dream run. If Trent and I got to the final, I would not care who won.
Yeah, if it's you or me in the final, we've already talked about this. But if it's you or me in the final, mate, I don't care. We could fucking run our warcasters up and drop all focus and just try and hit each other with sticks or something, mate. I wouldn't give a shit.
Just act on derps on global Twitch TV.
Yeah.
Once
he charged excellent blood tonight. He's Matt 5, power 9.
I tell you what, if you guys do that, not only would it be fantastic, my advice would be, particularly just going to be Deathclock, mate. I'd take the entire 1 hour and 59 minutes, and how many? I'd just make the game go as long as you could and just enjoy the moment. Hey.
Yeah. Get light up beers every turn you turn. You have to drink a beer, right? And then try play 30 turns in the hour time limit. That'd be awesome.
Seriously, I'd want to put on a good show though, because I remember watching the last 2 years War Machine weekend finals. This year was anticlimactic. Flanzer took a solid odds percentage chance, which I think was a good move for him, considering it was only going to go downhill during the course of the game, and his dice failed. It was a bit of a non-show. Whereas in the previous year, it was Keith with E. Kane versus Perrier with P. Sevi. And that was a real back and forth game, and we saw Kane healing for 7 and running because he was on fire. That was an awesome game to watch. Whereas 2013 was, I mean, like they played correctly, but it was just not visually appealing.
Yeah, if it's you or me in the final, James, we'll sit down at the start of it and say, look, mate, I don't care who wins. Let's just have a fucking great game. And then we'd probably sit down and go, which of these two lists are going to give us the most interesting game to watch, and just play that.
Basically, at the end of the day, you're going to do what all Australians do. You're just going to step up and have a red hot crack and go and have a beer when it's all done and dusted.
Yeah.
Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, we're counting our chickens very early there, aren't we? Let's pass over to Aaron now. Azza, you got any questions for us, mate?
Yeah, well, the first thing I was thinking, I mean, from both of your point of view, is there, obviously looking at your list and what you have, is there anything that you're really worried about, so to speak, or from a matchup list, maybe not a specific caster, but maybe a specific faction from both you kind of guys. So, for argument's sake, first round drop, Trent and James, you would not. If you had a preference, you wouldn't want to see this. You wouldn't want to be up against this faction.
For me, I think it's almost certainly got to be Legion. I just don't get a lot of practice against really good Legion players. Simon obviously played them for a little bit, but we know he's not very good, as well as being, a faction he didn't really get invested in. Epic Lilith is the main one, I think. She's just such a strong caster that for some reason hasn't seen a lot of play. And I feel like my Scar list has got some possible answers for that, but it's going to be a tough game. I think it'd be, at best, 45, 55. Epic Veil, on the other hand, doesn't worry me in the slightest. I feel confident against her, but yeah, that game would be more difficult, Epic Lilith, for me. I don't really think too much else concerns me. I've obviously planned for Haley and Gaspy. I'm confident against them. There's not really anyone else that I'd be too worried about. Maybe Menoth, because I don't get to play a lot of them.
What would you, if you just got matched up hypothetically against Colin Hill and he had E. Morvana and Kruger 1, what would you drop?
Yeah, that's P-Scar, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
I don't think... I played Potsy with... he used Kruger 1 against me all the time. And he gets the Raiders, but he doesn't get the Soul Hunters. And the Soul Hunters can kill probably 2 heavies by themselves. And then the Kraken can't be alpha struck. Like, he can't be killed in the turn that he wants to kill him. And then the Kraken can kill another heavy next turn. So, it's hard for him to stop the Kraken, I think.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to think of it in factions, but I have. It's hard not to think of it in casters. I've been practicing against E. Lilith and E. Vale. I tried to make sure my list can definitely cover the super long range shooting, and it's some of the snipe casters and E. Lilith that I've been worried about. E. Kruger has a game. It's an interesting game, and it's very different to how he normally plays. Without once you hit guns that are greater than range 14, Stormwall becomes this weird game of using it to force your opponent to, if they want to shoot you, they have to take super long odds and they have to move backwards to stay out of Stormwall, so Kruger can play a scenario game. I don't feel as confident against Crix as opposed to if I had Chromac, but I think E. Kruger does a valiant job of it. And just because I think that Chromac is the best answer to Crix in the game, possibly.
Yeah.
How
Okay.
you, how you
So
feeling, James? How are you feeling against LeCount?
yeah, a lot of good. I really can't drop Imorvana. Ikruga is, generally speaking, fine. The Druids make a lot of his game so much different to how you normally see Ikruga these days. Um, they're just Druids are astonishing with Ikruga, and I don't know why people don't play them more because they just really play to his board control strengths. And unless it's an axiom, and even then you can Stormwall and Feat, um, it it depends on how live the scenario is, essentially. And I think Ikruga's got some solid options. He just can't afford to get bogged down. I'm assuming you drop P-Scar as soon as you almost. Well, so what happens if you see Lucant and I don't know E Haley or something?
LeCount and Haley is a bad drop for me because Haley I want to drop Vlad and LeCount I want to drop Scar.
So
That's a coin flip.
chicken. Have you
Um,
thought about? Sorry, just 1 second. Have you thought about the thing where you just talk about your list to your opponent, like Jay suggested?
yeah, look, I don't think I'll go that route personally. I feel like it's part of the process of the game is that list choice, and I would rather lose a game because I dropped the wrong list because I made the wrong call than win a game that maybe we probably wouldn't have ended up playing. I don't know. To me, it just I wouldn't use the term cheapens it, but just something about it doesn't sit right with me. I'd rather play the
Sure.
game on its merits.
Well, then, basically, I think my advice from that point of view is I'd be asking myself, which one are you more confident with? Are you more confident if you had to play Vlad against, what did
LeCount,
you say? So, Lucan or Haley against, sorry, or
Scar against
Scar against
Haley.
Haley,
Yeah,
and then and then
that's the
basically,
Scar versus Haley game is the one I drop there and hope that he goes for Lucant because Vlad against Lucant does not go well.
yep. So then basically, if you're put in that situation, in my opinion, I think it's just straightforward. You just drop Scar, and if it goes your way, and he takes Luke Hunt, great. And if he takes Haley, well, you're gonna feel more confident than when you are, you know, when you go the other way. But the thing is, which I think is worth saying too, is that there's so many different unknowns, but it also like, I mean, seriously, unless you were playing more games than humanly possible, I don't think there's going to be a lot of area where a lot of people can't cover all those matchups. And then the ones that they do, like my experience I was talking about with Doge, you just never know what had happened. Like, someone might be heavily focused on matchup X, and then they get rubbed out by match A, which just completely blindsided them. So, I suppose from that point of view, just to reiterate for you guys, is that you guys done a heap of work and all the rest of it, but just to remain confident and just to remain like kind of level-headed and say, hey, let's just see what's going to happen, because I know some people can run their race too early, and I know we're talking about War Machine, we're not talking about life and death or anything like that, but still, you obviously want to do as best as you can, and yeah, like I think some people. I suppose another way of looking at it is how interesting or how difficult decisions you're going to make. It's going to be the exact same for the guys, 5 feet away from you on the other side of the table. So.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think
Yeah.
James and I both really, really want to do well. Like, neither of us are really all that concerned about how we do. Like, if we lose first round, we'll both just go, you know what, fuck, how good is it that we're in Seattle at lock and load and we've made this tournament and let's try and win the next 3 games and finish in the top 5 type of thing. Like,
How good is it? I just paid $2,000 to fly over here for one game.
woo! But at the same time, like, we want to do well, and we're putting everything
Of
we
course.
can, everything we can
Well,
into doing well. So, yeah,
well, again, I can't speak for everyone, but I know you guys, compared to some of the other guys that you may or not face, mate, I know you're putting in a lot more games than what they are. So, it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to see how that pans out. I can only see that being a positive and a strength in your guys' camp, being able to do that. So.
we've also got a bit of an advantage in that we are going to go in as underdogs. People are not going to rate us. Whereas, James and I played in Europe, and we've both played against the top players in Europe, and we've both done really well over there. And Jamie P went over to the States and cleaned house over there, and there's been a lot of people that have gone over from Europe and done quite well. So if we can match it with them, then we can match it with anyone. So I don't think we're going to be any weaker as players. It is just going to come down to who we draw and how we go in the matchups, and then on the table if we can put it together. So
Yeah, well,
My
I can.
fear,
Sorry,
just
mate.
real quick. My fear is crashing and burn. I'm not afraid of it, but if I crash and burn, I'll just feel like I've done no favours for Australia.
Firstly, mate, I can say, honestly, there's only my opinion. I don't think that'll ever be an issue, mate. I mean, as I say, I've only met you guys this year, and you guys are fantastic, and massive thumbs up. And secondly, I can tell you, obviously, because I've been there, and I don't know everything about everything, but I've certainly played a lot of games against some of these guys, and watched them play a lot of games, and I've got no doubt in my mind you guys will easily hold your own. And the great thing about it, as we've touched on before, mate, it's 16 of the best, and as you said, you're going to need a bit of luck. Whoever wins this thing's going to need a bit of luck. There is no doubt about it. And it's not like you're gonna walk in and then just be completely shell shocked because you feel that you're miles behind. I can guarantee you, mate. It'll be like two heavyweights just in there throwing punches and just see who's lucky enough to land who's in there good enough to land the knockout blow, so to speak.
We better hope James doesn't have to throw any punches. He's about 35 kilos ringing wet, so.
Inside reporter, stealthy whale, giving us the confidence boost.
Oh mate, hey, I've seen it, mate. It's fantastic. I've seen it, and you guys. I mean, compared to what I saw you guys play, I mean, obviously CanCon, it was fantastic for me. I had those 2 days, mate. I come in there for my stealth mission. I did what I had to do, and then I had 2 relaxing days just to watch you guys punch on and play. And mate, as I said, as I keep telling everyone, mate, in my entire career, I've never ever lost a game of Watch Machine, and I'm undefeated in Watch Machine. And I was able to sit there and watch you guys play, and not piss in your pocket, but you guys play really well, and that will shine through in a few weeks' time when you're over there taking them on.
This is a novel experience having someone who actually backs us. Last time we had Aaron on here, and I don't think he backs us at all, mate. Mind you, when he Aaron Thompson, that is, when he came up to Queensland a little while ago, he was talking big about how he hadn't lost a game in fucking 25 games, and I beat him 3 times on the trot. So. He's going well.
I appreciate what you said though, Aaron, because CanCon's a weird time of year where we've all just sort of got over the hurdle of the Super Series final and all thinking about new things. I'd obviously been playing Scorn for 40 odd days and then bust out the circle after focusing on Scorn. So I know what you have seen of us is probably like our weaker performances. Well, I hope so, compared to where we are now. So that's really good to hear from him. So I appreciate it.
I've been playing KOTOR for 3 weeks at CanCon. That was my 3rd week.
Yeah.
So I think we've probably got a little bit more to show. So hopefully we can do well. All right.
Yeah, cool.
Next question.
Next question. You put me on the spot. I had a good question. Now it's just gone out of my mind. What in terms of which player, if you obviously had your dream run, and obviously with the exception of playing against yourselves, but let's just pretend that you can't play yourself in the final, of the people as I said, I don't know the European guys, but which person do you know of that you'd love to play and obviously defeat in the Iron Gauntlet final?
Wicka wicka wicka! Oh, nurse!
I want to smash that guy in round 1. I want him to come. I want him to go 0-4. So. I don't want him anywhere near the final.
JVM, I would love to play against JVM. I don't want to play against Legion, and he'll obviously be rocking double Legion. But JVM's called me out once or twice, and I really look forward to having a game with that guy.
Yeah, nice.
It'd be Jay Larson for me. He's such a lovely guy. He's just such a lovely guy. Like I've just been getting to know him a bit over the last month, and man, he's a real gentleman and. He's done well at a lot of events. I don't think he's ever really cracked it and won like a full-on major tournament. But it'd be great to see him in the final. And
he did. That'd be fun. We can't forget Gen Con last year, mate.
Gen Con is the biggest. It's the biggest event in America. It's the
but that was the first Iron Gauntlet where they had the Iron Gauntlet running concurrently with the Masters.
They had 14 players. It's a joke.
Exactly. Was that a joke? Was it? Sorry, you guys are fucking shit at sarcasm.
No, mate, I can't speak highly enough of the man, mate. Jay Larson's a very close friend of mine. He's a lovely guy. Obviously, we met last year when I was over there, mate, and went up to Idaho Falls, had a fantastic week. And, mate, all those guys up there, the Chain Attack guys, it was funny, mate. Obviously, I've been dribbling long enough, mate, but my first podcast was old Chain Attack, mate. So when their first podcast dropped was when I first started playing War Machine, mate. So, Yeah, so yeah, I totally understand, mate. And playing against him would be a tough game, but a really pleasurable game as well because he's just a top bloke, a total gentleman, and mate, he's awesome. So I can understand,
He's
mate.
doing some cool stuff as well. He's playing Darius, like he's doing well with him.
There's probably not anyone. There's probably not anyone in that top 16 that you'd think, fuck, I don't want to play them in the final, other than Omnis. Like it's all pretty much like fucking gentlemen of the game, you know, like except for Omnis. But
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I had an experience playing against Jason Watt, and he's a lovely guy, mate. I'll tell you what, Dave, he's a really good player. He's a really tough player. He knows his stuff. So if you guys get the pleasure of playing against him, he just pushed my stuff in big time, mate. It was Epic Asphyxious versus a Harbringer. He told me, first game, how much he hated Epic Asphyxious, and he didn't lie because he did horrible things to me during that game. So... So you can watch out for him. Yeah, as I said, he's a really good player and he's a really nice guy. Obviously, Keith Christensen, you just can't take your eye off the prize with him, mate. As we all know. Yeah, so it's going to be an awesome field. And obviously, JVM. Oh, that was another question I want to say too. Are you? I suppose it's so unknown, but probably more my point of view rather than a question as such. But I've got a feeling that you'll be seeing a lot of casters that people are probably more familiar with because obviously, again, it's probably a very first time this thing's run, so it's a very prestige type of event. And again, I'm just thinking from a competitive point of view, as that people are probably going to go back to their staples. Not everyone. I can understand there'll be some exceptions to the rule, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone's going to try to dark horse it. But I suppose a question to you: do you think people are going to stick back to what they know? They're thinking far out, you know, like I mean, obviously from probably your point of view, James. I mean, I would make the assumption that probably Mulvana, Cromac, and Kruger would probably be, not to say they're the best casters you play, but I'm making the guess that you've probably had a ton of experience with them, and if, at a pinch, if you had to pull a caster off the shelf, you're playing an important game, maybe one of those three would be something that you'd probably lean to, and maybe everyone else preparing for it is probably going to go down a similar type mind. They're thinking, you know, this is an important event. I know the competition's going to be tough, so I'm going to go for my big hitters. What do you guys think?
I'll just jump in real quick because I got a quick answer. If I had to play a game, well, firstly, these guys are all really good, and the dark horse element becomes a lot weaker in a format like this against the quality of these players. If I had to play a game for life or death tomorrow, and I'm likely to go up against other Iron Gauntlet players, so E. Haley, E. Gaspy, etc., etc. I would think about dropping Cassius, but at the end of the day, it would probably be one of those three that you mentioned.
Yeah. What about you, Trent?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everyone's going to go in with what they're most confident with. So we're going to see Jay Larson with Epic Haley. We're going to see Keith with probably Epic Haley and maybe Epic Gaspy. We're probably going to see Watt with Harbinger and maybe a Spawn caster that he likes. JVM's going to rock double Legion, probably Saren and E-Vale, or Saren and P-Vale, or Omnis will probably drop P-Vale, and I'm hoping E-Vale and not E-Lilith. So, you know, we're sort of... that's not necessarily an advantage knowing that, because they're going to be playing casters that they know like the back of their hand. So, but hopefully we're going in with the same skill level and the same knowledge set. So hopefully it just comes down to who plays better.
Yeah, well, that's right, and that's what I always say to my mates is always it's a beauty of the game, because if you get two relatively even people in there, you know, they're using their best list. Yeah, that's right. There's no blowouts per se. It just comes down to, you know, people's resolve and who has the most luck, and more importantly, who makes the less mistakes. You know, is probably going to come out the winner.
I like to think that there's a reason Trent took Kaya 1, Morvana 1. And I took Cassius and Morvana 1 and Morvana 2 to the finals, and I managed to win. Like, there's a reason that you can take any caster off the shelf and have reasonable to fantastic success.
Yeah, like if someone was going to pick two casters in Circle that they thought was shit, if you were going off conventional wisdom, Cassius and Kaya are two of the shittest casters that in Circle, according to, you know, what people think.
Cassius has come around. It's definitely Kaya 1 down the bottom and Morvana 1 to an extent.
Yeah, I think having the European element too is going to be interesting. If I was honestly ever going to think of a dark horse, I reckon it's going to be them. Again, that's only based off the information that I got from the 2013 WTC. Obviously, they've got some very strong, and I think very valid, but very strong points of view of some different lists and different elements. And yeah, I think yeah, if anyone's going to be a dark horse, I think it's going to be them. And to be honest, they may or may not rustle a few feathers, particularly of the Americans, because I think, I don't know this, but I'm pretty confident that you could almost predict, as we just did, those predictions of some of those top American players using those lists. I'm quite confident that we're right on the money with some of the choices that they're going to be using. You know, obviously the Vales, the Serens, Harbingers, Haley, Gatsby, you know, that kind of stuff, or yeah, Denegra, obviously a good old Epic Denegra, or even P Denegra. I'm sure, you know, she's going to get a mention in there somewhere as well. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see how those European guys go.
The one thing that we have a tiny advantage is we've actually played a couple of those European guys. Like James actually played Daniel Knaus in the final of the OETC 2 years ago, and we know
you go right. Did you go right, mate? Get over the line.
Yeah.
Smashed him. Smashed him.
I actually did smash him.
Killed him turn 2. It was fucking awesome.
Top of turn 2? Top of turn 2?
Bottom of turn 2.
Bottom of turn.
No. It was Chromac versus P Boulder. He had nothing to threaten a long-range stone, so I just poured it up, and I was like, well, if he moves more than 2 inches forward, I can get him. And he moved Boulder about 4 inches forward and spent 4 Fury cast upkeeps. I'm like, this is like a 95%.
I'm in.
Yeah, all in.
Yeah, okay.
And then the rest of us lost, so that was awesome. But he's a Crix player and he's a Circle player, so we know what he's going to come with, and we also know what he's got, like how good a player he is. So we've got a little advantage there. But I honestly think the Germans are some of the best players. I know Martin Hornacek. I've watched him play. He's a fucking phenomenal player. He plays Scorn and he does well. But I fucking hope I draw Martin Hornacek. Oh my god, do I play some Scorn in my fucking normal times? Love to play that guy. He's not going to do anything at all to surprise me with Scorn.
Yep. And what is it? You go the Crix or Cato for your Ed B Scorn matchup? I'm guessing Crix, but
I mean he's been playing that Xerxes tier for a long time, and the Xerxes tier's got pretty good answers against the Texas Raiders with the Incendiary and the Fire, but I think that's about as far as it goes. I think the Kraken is monstrously good there. But I think Vlad handles that game as well. It really depends what his other list is. I think I could quite comfortably drop either of my lists now with the amount of practice I've had. So
I'm just looking at my previous chat with Daniel Naus. He won the IG qualifier over there with E. Haley E. Gaspy.
He did, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, E. Gaspy. Well, yeah, it's interesting to see. Interesting to see what they're going to come with. I'm sure we'll see that combination. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who matches up against it, because I suppose from what I've seen from the US is that they certainly stick to their strengths, but then they are wary of thinking that people are going to tech against them. So you know they don't shift too much from, you know, they don't go too far left to centre. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who, like Keith, obviously, it'll be interesting to see which factions he takes. But one thing you can guarantee about him is that he only plays that top shelf stuff. So
sounds like Simon Hall and Josh Bates, mate. Those guys fucking love the top shelf casters.
That's all they go for.
Can you guys see my second screen at the moment, or is that not actually showing up?
Nope, we're not seeing anything in your head, James.
Oh, okay, never mind.
What did you do?
I just pulled up a picture of some of the German guys that we played against and a couple of guys to watch, including Janos Salza.
Janos Salza!
Yeah.
No, that didn't work.
I think
you and I should probably have a muck around of this and see if we can figure out some cool shit so we can watch videos of other stuff happening and talk about it while that's happening. That'd be cool.
I think from what we just talked about before, Trent, it'll be interesting when that Kraken hits the table, because I know that he gets a bad rap over in the US, mate. So I think when you drop it, I'm actually really hoping. Well, not really hoping. I'm really excited to see him hit the table and just see what people's reactions are, because I don't know. I don't know this for a fact, but I just got some people thinking they'll just look at it and just probably been a bit, not disbelief, but I just don't think he's very highly rated. And obviously we've talked a lot, and you've got a lot of confidence in him, and yeah, I just think it'll be a very good interaction to see how it goes.
I'll just tell you a couple of quick things about the Kraken, why I think he's great in that list. Like, he's got a native threat range of 12 inches, which is very strong. He's got kill shot, which lets him... I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone charge, kill a model, drop an AoE, a 4-inch AoE on a unit of dudes that thought they were way out of range, and just fucking obliterated them. And then with Dara Graith and her feet, his armor 26, which is like, there's nothing that can touch a 58 box armor 26 model in the game. Like, there's nothing that can do it. The only thing that could is a Conquest with Xerxes' feet, Butcher's feet and Fury. He's power 25 Weapon Master. He gets it done.
You can get Ragman or something in there as well. That'll
yeah, 27, and Harm go up to 29. But that's really fucking expensive.
And Rust Bomb 31.
But that's also threat range 9 inches with nothing to extend it. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, since your other episode when you dropped that, you're talking about that list. Obviously, I've been thinking about it a fair bit, mainly just to steal the tech. But you know, I'm not going to lie. But just thinking about it's going to be interesting when that turn comes, because a lot of people. I mean, if it was me, instantly I'd be thinking, well, yeah, I'm just gonna crash against that if I have a crack. So I'm gonna try to, you know, just hold off a turn. And obviously, as we spoke about, you know, and obviously when you do that, and then the poor old Soul Hunters and the Statisticus Raiders get in your face and just basically commit to a fight. You know, everyone likes to stand off and wait, but obviously when you pop that feat, it's going to be really important, and it's going to be critical timing. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how you go, but also how people react to it, because they'll be in a situation where, I mean, obviously, you know, in a standard game, you pop it, I'll just back off, but, you know, you really want to force that question, so, you know, they don't have that option.
The reason why that list works, and I've been playing it for such a long time now, is because I get to Alpha with the Raiders and the Soul Hunters and the Blood Witches under feet, and they get to pick their targets. Like, it's so hard to stop Soul Hunters from going where you want them to go, and the Raiders can clear out the models that are blocking, the Blood Witches can charge up and go incorporeal, and then the Soul Hunters can go through and pick out those pieces that would be able to kill the Kraken. And then he walks forward, right, and he might even make 1 or 2 attacks in that feat turn, but he's right in the center of the table, and there's fuck all models left that can actually kill him. And then my whole army's under feet, and it's just is such a difficult sort of, like, you can't commit too many models.
It's a similar principle to my Morvana list.
With the Wild Wrath, yeah. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I started using the Wild Wrath initially, is because I felt like that list would work. But yeah, the Kraken I have not lost him in a game in a long time, just because I can pick out the pieces that can kill him and stop it from happening.
If you can time your tempo plus feet, you're never going to lose him. If you can time it perfectly.
Well, that's what I'm finding.
And I think the really good thing too is that because they're not used to him, he'll become a really good distraction. At least that's what my impression is, and from your point of view, that's definitely what I'm hoping, is that people are going to see it, and they're going to go, and then obviously, you know, like they might be focused on that, and then obviously that's where your other elements that you just described can really just present themselves as a real hassle. So.
See, the other thing to remember about the Kraken is, like, it's just standard Colossal rules, but you sort of forget about it. Can't be placed, can't be telekinesis out of a zone, can't be slammed. It just, those things give you a great place to hide your Warcaster behind, and Scar needs to play upfield, so you need something there, as well as, like, just that scenario presence as well. So, yeah, it's my favourite list I've ever written, so I was always going to run it.
I just want to touch on one other thing briefly before we get to the conclusion. In the last week, a couple of interesting things have come out. So that promo video came out. A ruling on a new errata has come out, and the big one was that formations. And if a unit's out of formation, even if it's one model, you can't cast spells on them, friendly spells. And then finally, that little conversion policy. I don't think we really need to touch on that. But the spells on out of formation units, do you see it like being a... I've thought about this being an E. Kruger player, because people have immediately said, run an E. Kruger, oh my god, it's gonna end the world. I don't think it's going to change the game at all. In fact, I think it makes it tighter and better. Sorry, change it negatively. I think it's just a good change. I think people are going to start freaking out when they see Kruger, and that may actually just work in my favour.
Potsy raised some good points. We had this conversation tonight about it. Yeah, I'm quite positive about the change because I think what it does encourage is running your units closer together and just having a little bit more thought about precision and what's going to potentially happen in the next turn. But there's maybe other ways they could have done that perhaps wouldn't have been so negatively impacting on certain factions like trolls. I do think trolls really suffer. Waters in particular. If you drag a water out of range, without the various buffs that they get applied to them, they're not anywhere near as effective. So yeah, look, I'm positive about it. I've played 4 games with that change now, and it hasn't impacted on any of the games. I've been able to cast all my spells. Here's a fun one that you might not have known: Ritual Sacrifice, Scar's spell. I can still cast it on a model out of formation because it targets a model, not a unit. So I kept my little Stitch Thralls at the back and can still just keep popping them.
Is it a spell?
Yeah, it's a spell. But it's when it says when it targets a unit, all members of the unit must be in formation. So the Ritual Sacrifice targets a model, and so it bypasses that restriction.
It's super situational, but if it happens, that's tech for sure.
Oh mate, I do it all the time. My Stitch Thrall stay at the back of the game. Like the Scarlock Thrall is 12 inches behind Scar every turn. So
yeah. Have you had a chance to mull it over at all, Aaron?
Yeah, I certainly have. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing obviously was, as we all know, there's a lot of talk about removing the Kato Arc Node and removing, I suppose, from a negative. And I was just obviously trying to think about those type of armies which used I've got an upkeep spell here on a particular unit, and you want to send them in, and then obviously then switch that spell over. I suppose probably the big impact there is traditionally just having one guy sitting back. And to be able to easily do that. So having your Warcaster, to be able in safety. Now, obviously, the Warcaster, the unit has to be together, more in formation. So obviously, if you're not using an Oak Node, and again, probably more targeting the Horde side of things, more so than the War Machine point of view, probably promotes the positioning of your Warcaster, or just some more thought to where your Warcaster or Warlock's positioning is, whereas potentially you could have just had one guy just sitting back there and it was just no issue at all. Obviously the Witch Doctor proc, that's obviously going to affect people like that, and other guys which are obviously trying to buff things. I think all it probably does is it just means that my take on it is it's just that people are just going to have to be more thoughtful and more forward planning with their positioning and their activation. I think that's going to be the main effect, which in a way I think that's going to be positive because because basically people who are solid players and just make that adjustment, it's not going to affect them. I think you'll find it's other people who it's probably going to more affect the I don't like to use the word weaker, but that's the one I use. It's going to affect the poor weaker players more than the top of the field, honestly. So I think it's positive. I think, I don't think it's a real big deal breaker as long as you've got your forward thinking and you've got your order of activation and you've got your positioning right. I mean, it just means basically, I'm just going to keep my standard bearer, I'm just going to keep my one infantry man at the back of the board. It just cuts that out. So I can't really see having.
I think it also incentivizes using things like warjacks a little bit more. Just only a minor change. Maybe we'll just see an extra warjack instead of that unit. But like I was thinking about it when I first read it, and I was like, okay, well, this is a skill cap raise, right? Because it's going to encourage, it's going to reward players that are capable of knowing what's going to happen next turn. Like Ironfang Pikeman, for example, the leader's command 10, right? So if you had everyone at opposite ends of a spectrum of 10 inches away from him, then if he gets killed, you're fucked. So what you do then is you run the top guy and the guy beside him 9 inches apart, and you create a 9-inch square that all the models are inside. So if they kill your leader, you can promote any one of those guys and everyone's still in formation. And you can do that with a 9-inch bubble quite easily and not have AoEs really still causing any problems. Like, to me, it feels like it's just going to be a change that once the dust settles on this errata, people are going to realise it's not that big a deal.
DC speaks well, and he said, I'll paraphrase, he said that he felt it's going to stick, it's a change that's happening, and he felt that units were operating as a spread out entity rather than a tightly knit, cohesive unit. Which I can appreciate what he's really trying to do there.
I also like the fact that
GW reasoning.
I like the fact that it penalises units that have lower command. Like, how good is it that Mechanothralls at command, I think they're command 5, aren't they, Azza? Have to stay within 5 inches of each other. Like, that's huge.
Their command 6, bowls are 7, and then the commander takes them to 8 if you take the skull.
Yeah, so there's a reason to take him. Like, to me, that all that does is it's giving another, like, a little penalty to low command units. So, which is good. Like, that should be a penalty.
Yeah, and also I think as a positive, on the other side of the ledger, is that if you have, particularly, I'm thinking of people that have some really fairly funky solos, you can reward smart play or penalise bad play. That if you don't protect your unit leader or if you're taking a UA, and you've essentially spread out, and he's vulnerable, if you're able to get a beat on him and pick him off, then it just basically creates a better bonus or a bit of a harsher penalty on your opponent, which is obviously trying to get the best of both worlds, taking infantry and just pushing them to the extremes, to either deny scenario presence or take up board space or deny your blast AOE type attacks. I personally think it is going to be a positive effect. It's just going to be an adjustment where people have to play, and then, like a lot of things, there'll just be an evolution. So, as James pointed out, units are going to have to act more coherently together, and then so promoting people bring back some blast weapons or bring back some sprays, the template weapons, and that kind of stuff. So I just think it's just a nice little evolution.
It's sort of no different to a new model release or different scenarios. You've just got to look at the game differently and start adjusting how you used to do things in the past. Like when Colossals came out, all of a sudden you couldn't rely on an infantry spam quicks list. You had to think outside the box. This is the same. So overall, I think it's fine. And the conversion policy is completely irrelevant. No one cares about that, James.
Cool.
That's fucking irrelevant. All right, well that might do us. I think we've been talking for about an hour and 20 minutes, which is a bit longer than we were expecting, but that's okay.
I think these ones need to potentially turn into a podcast as well.
Yeah, well, we'll think about doing a podcast at some point in the future. James and I have got a few things happening soon, which hopefully we'll be able to talk about. And it's all exciting times for us. But Aaron, thank you very much for making the time to come on the show and staying up late at night. We really appreciate it.
Mate, pleasure, mate. It's always love to chat with you guys. And mate, if you ever want to talk to me again, mate, you know where to find me, mate. As I said, really appreciate the opportunity to support you guys. And obviously, mate, I'll be in there on the sidelines wishing you guys all the best. So obviously, I'll see you guys in Seattle in, what have we got, maybe 3.5 weeks, something like that.
3.5 weeks. We'll be sitting down at the tables at Lock and Load and just chewing the fat and putting shit on everyone. So it's going to be magic.
Mate, sounds awesome, mate. Thanks so much.
Thanks again for your very generous donation, Aaron.
Yes.
Mate, no problems at all.
I'll bring your shirt to Lock and Load, so you'll be able to rep that proudly on the Sunday when you're supporting us.
Mate, I'll be there, mate. I will definitely be there. So thanks, guys. Take it easy.
I didn't know they made size quadruple XL, but apparently they do. So.
Well, apparently if you put in a special order, mate, they can just print it on a bed sheet for you, mate. So I'm just going to wrap that around me. Are you going to
be bringing like autographed copies of that CanCon sheet? They're like framed ones or just like signed ones or?
Well, actually, I've got it here. You see, I've got it here. So here we go. Notice. Actually,
I've got it here for you. It's the extra large framed version.
There we go. I noticed that thankfully I didn't have to embarrass either of you two and play either of you two guys. But let's not forget, I did get out of a possible 30. I did get 25 control points. So
that's strong, mate. That's strong, mate. If I played retarded kids, I'd probably get 25 out of 30 control points as well. So you know what I mean?
Hey. In my defence, I had no idea they were retarded. I had no idea. It was only until you informed me that they were retarded that I thought about feeling bad. But then I
Mate,
realised I
that's like-
didn't. So
It's like coming off the field after playing a game of rugby league and winning best on ground, but you're 25 and you've been playing in the under-10s division, like just fending cunts off left, right, and centre, scoring 12 tries, mate. Come off the field, you go on these ones like, oh, mate, no one cares. It's like
Speaking of-
nothing.
speaking about rugby league, mate, apparently you're still having a run, or you're an active player, are you, Trina?
Mate, I played last year and broke my wrists and haven't put on the boots yet this year. I've
Break
been
your
down to
wrist.
training. Yeah, broke my wrist. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I've been down to training a couple of times, but I haven't had a run this year yet. So
You're still recovering from that shoulder injury at Munster in 2009, I think, as well.
that was 4 years ago. No, the shoulder's good now, mate.
5 years, okay. 4, yeah.
In the last 5 years, I've done my shoulder twice, I've done my knee once, and I've done my wrist. So I'm having a good run with the injuries at the moment. I think when you get to 31, you gotta hang up the boots. You on the other hand, Aaron, early 40s, and you're also still playing. Is that right?
Yes, mate. Yes, early 40s. We'll go with that. Yeah, I could see. But as you can see, I'm in such great nick. I essentially, I monitor
Did you
myself.
just say you ate Nick? Is that what you said? You ate Nick?
No. I said because I'm in great nick, not because I ate Nick.
Mate. Sorry,
Because I'm
mate.
in great nick. I monitor my fatigue by getting myself penalised and put in the sin bin. So normally I play 5 minutes and then 10 in the bin and then come out for another maybe 8 or 9 and then go off with a fake injury and you do that for the last 13 years and you can continue to still get involved. That's how you do it. That's cool. Yeah. It's just
if you can
managing
sign me up, Aaron, if you can sign me up for the deluxe package with the framed score and just a couple of red cards and one of your teeth from the sin bin, that would be fantastic.
I'd love a signed copy, actually. I don't want to pay for the framing. Just send a signed copy. And
Tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'll take that into work tomorrow, and I'll run that through the photocopier, and mate, I'll bring that with me. Come like a lad. So when we're sitting down having a beer, all done and dusted, we can celebrate everyone's success. I can bring out the old CanCon sheet and tell everyone.
Look at this bad boy!
Just want to say congratulations, fellas. You had an awesome Iron Gauntlet final. Congratulations to the pair of you. But just want to bring out my little certificate here from start of the year.
CanCon Masters. Deno, pretty sure you came 10th. Horse, pretty sure you came in the 30s. So just want to remind you guys, Aaron Whale, #1. Thank you. Here's your copy.
Well, actually,
Trent's sitting there with his new Playboy mansion given to him by Privateer Press, 10 trophies, a sponsorship deal, and Aaron's like, guys, can we focus on the Kinsey?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But he's done well, but he hasn't done as well as me. There it is. The trophy's right there. So.
It will actually be awesome having you there with the shirt.
My new life goal. Become Aaron Whale. That's my new life goal.
Well, hey, start eating a few pies, mate. That's the only advice I can give you. Start having a few pies.
I'll put another 40 kilos, and then I'll be halfway there.
Yeah, mate, exactly right. Yeah, because funny enough, I've actually had to buy myself 2 tickets to get over to the US, mate. I've got to take up 2 seats, so that's. But hey, don't forget, I'm going to swing past your place. Sometime, mate, in the not too distant future. And all these comments, mate. Me and your fridge are going to have a fair scene too. So don't worry about that.
Great. Well, my door's always open. So
awesome.
All right, Horse. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on and making the time. You're a fucking legend. I think so. The video counts 17 to Deno and 3 to Horse at the moment. Is that right?
Come on. This is our 20th episode. We've done three Hangouts, and I've done about 4. So it's 13, 4, and...
This is our 21st episode, because I released another one last night, and you are currently at 4 episodes that you've done in Canberra, I think. So you are way behind.
I've done 5.
4. I'm going to go and count them.
I've done 5. I've done 5, motherfucker.
I don't care, mate. Up your fucking game. The people deserve a bit more Morehouse, mate. They want to see more. They want to see all of what you've got to offer, mate.
I'm camera shy at the moment. I've got this beautiful pimple right here.
You've got a massive pimple.
Woo!
All I can see in that frame is your giant head, James, and it just reminds me of any time when I'm actually around you, because that's all I can see.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a great episode. Signed copies coming out by Aaron soon.
No, thanks.
Yeah, mate. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'll try to get them out ASAP.
That's great stuff, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning into a Doge's Breakfast, and once again, thank you everyone for the generous support. We love it. We love you guys, and we're going to do our best to bring home the trophy, and hopefully we'll have a lot of fun footage and stuff to give you guys as well when we get back. So thank you. We appreciate it.